Hi, Prime Stage friends. My name is Heather Irwin. I've been working with Prime Stage for a couple years now. Specifically, I was in 2018 Meet Geese in the Diary of Anne Frank, and then in 2019 I was one of the good wives for Scarlet Letter. And I hope to see you in 2020 sometime for Mockingbird. Today I'm going to be sharing one of my favorite books from my childhood, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Specifically, I'm going to be reading chapter 4. This is when Edmund, one of the siblings, goes through the magical wardrobe for the very first time, and unfortunately the first person he meets is the evil witch. I have always liked this chapter because it talks about a treat that Edmund gets from the witch called Turkish Delight, and I've never tasted it before. But what we're going to do is, after I read the chapter, my son and I are going to attempt to make some Turkish Delight. We found a recipe online. So without further ado, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, Chapter 4, Turkish Delight. Chapter 4, Turkish Delight. "But what are you?" said the Queen again. "Are you a great overgrown dwarf that has cut off its beard?" "No, your Majesty," said Edmund. "I never had a beard. I am a boy." "A boy," she said. "Do you mean that you are a son of Adam?" Edmund stood still, saying nothing. He was too confused by this time to understand what the question meant. "I see you're an idiot, whatever else you may be," said the Queen. "Answer me once and for all, or I shall lose my patience. Are you human?" "Yes, your Majesty," said Edmund. "And how, pray, did you come to enter my dominions?" "Please, your Majesty, I came in through the wardrobe." "A wardrobe? What do you mean?" I opened a door, and I found myself here, your Majesty," said Edmund. "Ha!" said the Queen, speaking more to herself than to him. A door from the world of men. I have heard of such things. This may wreck all. But he is only one, and he is easily dealt with." And as she spoke these words, she rose from her seat and looked at Edmund full in the face. Her eyes were flaming, and at the same moment she raised her wand. Edmund felt sure that she was going to do something dreadful, but he seemed unable to move. Just then, as he gave himself up for lost, she appeared to change her mind. "My poor child," she said in quite a different voice, "how cold you look. Come and sit with me on the sleigh, and I will put my mantle around you, and we will talk." Edmund did not like this arrangement at all, but he dare not disobey, and he stepped into the sleigh and sat on her feet, and she put the folds of her fur mantle around him and tucked him in. "Well, perhaps something hot to drink," said the Queen. "Should you like that?" "Yes, please, your Majesty," said Edmund, whose teeth were chattering. The Queen took from somewhere among her wrappings a very small bottle, which looked like it was made of copper. Then, holding out her arms, she let one drop fall from it onto the snow beside the sleigh. Edmund saw the drop for a second, mid-air, shining like a diamond. But in the moment it touched the snow, there was a hissing sound, and there stood a jeweled cup full of something that steamed. The dwarf immediately took this and handed it to Edmund with a bow and a smile, but not a very nice smile. Edmund felt much better as he began to sip the hot drink. There was something he had never tasted before, sweet and foamy and creamy, and it warmed him right down to his toes. "Oh, it is very dull, son of Adam, to drink without eating," said the Queen presently. "What would you like best to eat?" "Turkish Delight, please, your Majesty," said Edmund. The Queen let another drop from her bottle fall into the snow, and instantly there appeared a round box tied with a green silk ribbon, which, when opened, turned out to contain several pounds of the best Turkish Delight. Each piece was sweet and light to the very center, and Edmund had never tasted anything more delicious. He was quite warm now, and very comfortable. While he was eating, the Queen kept asking him questions. At first, Edmund tried to remember that it is rude to speak with one's mouth open, or full. But soon he forgot this, and thought only of trying to shovel down as much Turkish Delight as he could. And the more he ate, the more he wanted to eat, and he never asked himself why the Queen should be so inquisitive. She got him to tell her that he had one brother and two sisters, and that one of his sisters had already been in Narnia and had met a faun there, and no one except his brother and his sisters knew anything about Narnia. She seemed especially interested in the fact that there were 4 of them, and kept coming back to that. "You are sure there is just 4 of you?" she asked. "2 sons of Adam and 2 daughters of Eve, neither more nor less?" And Edmund, his mouth full of Turkish Delight, kept saying, "Yes, I told you that before," and he forgot to call her your Majesty, but she didn't seem to mind now. At last the Turkish delight was all finished, and Edmund, looking very hard at the empty box, wished that she would ask him whether or not that he would like some more. Probably the queen knew quite well what he was thinking, for she knew, though Edmund did not, that this was an enchanted Turkish delight, and anyone who had once tasted it would want more and more of it, and would even, if they were allowed, go on eating it until they killed themselves. But she did not offer him any more. Instead, she said to him, "Son of Adam, I should so very much like to see your brother and your 2 sisters. Will you bring them to me?" "I'll try," said Edmund, still looking at the empty box, "because if you did come again, bringing them with you, of course, I would be able to give you some more Turkish delight. I can't do it now. The magic will only work once. In my own home, it would be another matter." "Well, why can't we go to your house now?" said Edmund, and when he first got in the sleigh he had been afraid that she might drive away with him to some unknown place, which he would not be able to get back from. But he had quite forgotten that fear now. "It is a lovely place, my house," said the queen. "I am sure that you would like it. There's whole rooms full of Turkish delight, and what's more, I have no children of my own. I want a nice boy whom I could bring up as prince, who would be king of Narnia when I am gone. While he was prince, he would wear a gold crown and eat Turkish delight all day. You are very much the most cleverest and handsomest young man I have ever met. I think that I would like to make you prince some day, when you bring the others to visit me." "Why not now?" said Edmund. His face had become very red, and his mouth and fingers were very sticky. He did not look neither clever nor handsome, whatever the queen may say. "Oh, but if I took you there now," she said, "I shouldn't see your brother and sisters. I very much want to know your charming relations. You are to be prince and later on king, and that is understood, but you must have courtiers and nobles. I will make your brother a duke, and your sisters duchesses." "There's nothing special about them," said Edmund, "and anyway, I could always bring them some other time." "Ah, but once you're in my house," said the queen, "you might forget all about them. You would be enjoying yourself so much that you wouldn't want to bother to go fetch them. No, you must go back to your own country now, and come with me another day. With them. Understand? It is no good coming without them." "But I don't even know the way back to my own country," pleaded Edmund. "That's easy. Do you see the lamp?" She pointed to her wand, and Edmund looked at the lamppost under which Lucy had met the fawn. "Straight on beyond that, that is the world of men. And now look the other way," and she pointed the opposite direction, "and tell me if you can see 2 hills rising above the trees." "I think I can," said Edmund. "Well, my house is between the 2 hills, so the next time you come, you only have to find the lamppost and look for the 2 hills and walk through the woods till you reach my house. But remember, you must bring the others with you. I might have to be very angry if you came alone." "I'll do my best," said Edmund. "And by the way," said the queen, "you needn't tell them about me. It would be fun to keep a secret between us 2, wouldn't it? Make a surprise for them. Just bring them along to the 2 hills. A clever boy like you will easily think of some excuse to do that. And when you come into my house, you could just say, 'Let's see who lives here,' or something like that. I'm sure that that would be best. If your sisters have met one of the fawns, she may have heard strange stories about me, nasty stories that make her afraid to come to me. Fawns will say anything, you know. And now, oh, please, please," Edmund said suddenly, "please, couldn't I just have one more piece of Turkish delight to eat on the way home?" "No, no," the queen said with a laugh, "you must wait until next time." And while she spoke, she signaled the dwarf to drive on. But as the sleigh swept away out of sight, the queen waved to Edmund, calling, next time, do not forget. Come soon." Edmund was still staring at the sleigh when he heard someone calling his name and looked around and saw Lucy coming towards him from another part of the woods. "Oh, Edmund," she cried, "you've got in too. Isn't it wonderful? And now—" "All right," said Edmund. "I see you were right, and it is a magic wardrobe after all. I'll say I'm sorry if you'd like, but what on earth, where have you been all of this time? I have been looking for you everywhere." "If I had known that you had gotten in, I would have waited for you," said Lucy, who was too happy and excited to notice how snappishly Edmund spoke or how flushed and strange his face was. "I've been having lunch with dear Mr. Tumnus the fawn. He is very well, and the White Witch has done nothing to him for letting me go, so he thinks that she could not have found out, and perhaps everything is going to be all right after all." "The White Witch," said Edmund. Who is she? Oh, she is a perfectly terrible person, said Lucy. She calls herself the Queen of Narnia, though she has no right to be queen at all. And all the fauns and dryads and naiads and dwarves and animals, at least all the good ones, simply hate her. And she can turn people into stone and do all sorts of horrible things. And she has made magic, so it is always winter in Narnia. Always winter, but it never gets to be Christmas. And she drives about on a sleigh drawn by reindeer, and her wand is in her hand and her crown is on her head. And Edmund was already feeling uncomfortable from eating too many sweets. And when he heard that the lady he had made friends was a dangerous witch, he felt even more uncomfortable. But he still wanted to taste that Turkish delight again more than he wanted anything else. Who told you all that stuff about the White Witch? He asked. Mr. Tumnus, the faun, said Lucy. You can't always believe what fauns say, said Edmund, trying to sound now as he knew far more about them than Lucy. Who said so? Said Lucy. Everyone knows it, said Edmund. Ask anybody you like. But it is pretty poor sport standing here in the snow, so let's go home. Yes, let's, said Lucy. Oh, Edmund, I am glad you've got in too. The others will have to believe in Narnia now that both of us have been here. What fun it will be. But Edmund secretly thought that it would not be as good fun for him as it was her. He would have to admit that Lucy had been right before all the others, and he felt sure the others would be on the side of the fauns and the animals. But he was already more than half on the side of the witch. He did not know what to say or how he would keep a secret once they all started talking about Narnia. By this time they had walked a good way, and suddenly they felt the coats around them instead of branches, and the next moment they were both standing outside the wardrobe in an empty room. I say, said Lucy, you do look awful, Edmund. Don't you feel well? I'm all right, said Edmund, but this was not true. He was feeling very sick. Come then, said Lucy. I'll find the others. What a lot of fun we shall have to tell them, and what wonderful adventures we shall have now that we are all in it together. Okay, here's the finished product. Ready? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.